What if the person who understood you best was already sleeping beside you every night? He thought he was talking to a stranger, someone who finally saw him in ways nobody else ever had. Every message pulled him deeper, and every night he came home carrying secrets he believed were safe. But inside that house, someone was already watching the whole thing unfold in complete silence. And when the truth finally came out, nothing in their marriage would ever be the same again.
Welcome back to Tales by Laju. Before you start, I want you to do something for me. Think about the last time that someone you loved looked you in the eyes while hiding something away from you. Because tonight's story isn't just about cheating, it's about loneliness inside a marriage. Secrets hidden in plain sight, and what happens when one woman decides that she's tired of waiting for the truth to come out. This story had me really stressed all the way through, and I already know that some of you are going to have very strong opinions about what Stacey did. So while you're listening to the story, I want you to ask yourself one question. How far would you go to uncover the truth? All right, let's get into it.
Stacey Reid had a good life, a beautiful home in Buckhead, Atlanta, the kind of neighborhood where every lawn looked like it was trimmed with scissors, a G-Wagon Mercedes in the driveway, a husband who wore suits that cost more than most people's rent. From the outside, the Reid family had everything. But on a Wednesday night in November, sitting in her walk-in closet with the lights dimmed, Stacey discovered something that broke that picture in half. It started with a notification. Wesley's iPad was sitting on the bathroom counter, and a message popped up from an app she didn't recognize. The app was called Spark, a dating and chat platform. The notification read, "Dreamgirl22 sent you a voice note." Stacey stood there for a full minute. She didn't move. She just stared at those words. Then she picked up the iPad. Wesley had forgotten to lock it. Rookie mistake. She opened the app, and what she found made her sit down slowly on the cold marble floor. Her husband had a full profile on Spark. His name on the app was Wes Reid at Airand. He wasn't even trying to hide who he was. His profile said, "Married but unfulfilled, looking for something real." Something real. Stacey read that line 3 times. She and Wesley had been married for 11 years. They met in college at Howard University. He was charming, funny, ambitious. She was sharp, beautiful, the kind of woman men turn their heads to look at twice. Together, they had built something solid, or so she thought. She scrolled through his chat history. There were multiple women, but one conversation was different. It was longer, warmer, more personal. The woman's name on the app was Dreamgirl22, and she and Wesley had been talking every single day for the past 3 months. Morning messages, late-night voice notes, emoji strings that looked like something a teenager would send. Stacey read one message that made her chest tighten. Wesley had written, "I don't know how to explain it. Talking to you feels like breathing, like I finally found someone who actually sees me." She put the iPad down on the floor. She pressed her back against the closet door, and she sat there in the dark, perfectly still, for almost an hour. She didn't cry, not yet. By the time Wesley came upstairs, Stacey was already in bed with the lights off, pretending to sleep. She heard him brush his teeth, slip under the covers, and fall asleep within minutes. She lay there listening to his breathing, and she made a decision. She was not going to confront him. Not yet. Not until she knew everything. Not until she had turned over every stone and seen every ugly thing underneath. Because Stacey Reid did not operate on emotion. She operated on strategy. That was what 11 years of living with a man like Wesley had taught her. Never show your cards before you know what hand he's holding. She was going to become Dreamgirl22's competition. She was going to catfish her own husband. It took Stacey 2 days to set everything up. She created a new email address. She downloaded Spark on a phone she bought with cash at a Walmart 2 towns over. She was not playing around. Her new profile name was Martha Price et al. She used photos of a woman she found on a stock image website. Attractive, but not flashy. Natural looking. The kind of woman a man would believe was real. She wrote a bio that said, "New to Atlanta. Looking for genuine connection. Not interested in games." Then she found Wesley's profile and sent him a message. "Hey, your profile caught my eye. You seem honest. That's rare." She hit send and put the phone face down on the kitchen counter. Her hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, from something else, something she couldn't name yet. Within 40 minutes, Wesley replied, "You just made my whole afternoon. I like your energy already." Stacey stared at those words. Her husband, the man who had kissed her on the cheek that very morning while she was making the kids' breakfast, the man who told her he was tired all the time. Too stressed for date nights, too busy for real conversation. He wasn't too busy, he was just busy with someone else. She wrote back as matter. "So tell me something real about yourself, not the stuff you put in a LinkedIn bio, something true." Wesley wrote back fast. "Okay, real talk. I feel invisible in my own house, like I'm performing a role nobody actually wrote for me. I go through the motions every day, and I wonder when I became someone I don't even like." Stacey read that twice. Then she set the phone down and walked to the window. She stood there looking at her backyard. The swing set her kids loved, the garden she had planted 2 summers ago, the patio furniture they had picked out together on a Saturday morning at Pottery Barn. Her throat felt tight. He felt invisible. In her house. In the life she had poured herself into. Part of her wanted to walk upstairs right then, wake him up, and scream at him. But she didn't. She walked back to the counter, picked up the phone, and kept going. "I hear you," she wrote as matter, "more than you know." And just like that, Wesley Reid started falling. Over the next 2 weeks, they talked every day. Stacey learned the discipline of becoming someone else while still being herself. She kept Martha's responses warm but measured. She asked Wesley questions she already knew the answers to, just to hear how he'd frame them. And what she heard was both devastating and illuminating. Wesley talked about his marriage like it was a house with the heat turned off. He said Stacey was distant, that she never asked how he was doing, that she was more focused on appearances than on him. He said he felt like a bank account with a face. Stacey saved every single message. By the 3rd week, Wesley told Martha he wanted to meet. "I know this sounds crazy," he wrote, "but I feel like I know you, like really know you. I want to see your face." Stacey sat with that message for a long time. She hadn't expected this part to come so fast. She had imagined the catfish playing out over months, a slow, controlled experiment, but Wesley was moving faster than she planned. The man who was too tired for date nights with his own wife was suddenly eager to fly across Atlanta to meet a woman he'd never seen in person. She wrote back as Martha, "I'm not ready for that yet, but I'm not going anywhere. Can you be patient with me?" Wesley replied, "For you? Yeah, I can be patient." Meanwhile, in real life, Stacey watched her husband closely. She noticed he was happier, lighter. He was humming in the kitchen. He bought a new cologne she hadn't seen before. He started going to the gym again in the evenings, something he had abandoned years ago. One night at dinner, the daughter Maya, who was 9, looked at Wesley and said, "Daddy, you seem different." Wesley laughed. "Good different or bad different?" Maya thought about it, like you're not mad at something anymore. The table went quiet. Stacey put a forkful of food in her mouth and chewed slowly. She did not look at her husband. She could feel him looking at her though. "I'm not mad at anything, baby," Wesley said. "Just trying to be better." That night, after the kids were in bed, Wesley came and sat next to Stacey on the couch. He put his hand over hers. She let him. "You seem far away lately," he said. She looked at him. "I'm right here." He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said, and then he got up and went to bed. Stacey sat alone on the couch for a long time. She thought about what her sister Deirdre had told her years ago, before the wedding. Deirdre had pulled her aside at the bridal shower and said, "Stacey, make sure he's choosing you, not just the life he gets with you." She hadn't listened then. She was listening now. She picked up the Martha phone. She typed, "Wesley, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. He replied within seconds. He must have been on his own phone in the bedroom. Anything. Are you in love with someone else? A long pause. Then, I'm married. That's not what I asked. Another pause. Then, I don't know what I feel anymore. I just know that when I talk to you, it's the only time I feel like myself. Is that wrong? Stacey set the phone down and pressed her fingers to her lips. It was time to end this, but not yet. Not quite yet. She needed one more thing. Stacey called her sister Deirdre on a Sunday afternoon while Wesley took the kids to a soccer game. I need to tell you something, Stacey said, and I need you to not yell at me. Deirdre was quiet for a second. Should I be sitting down? Probably. She told Deirdre everything. The iPad, the app, the 3 months of messages with Dreamgirl22, the fake profile she'd created, the 2 weeks of conversation, all of it. When she finished, Deirdre was silent for a moment. Then she said, Stacey, you catfished your own husband. I know, on a dating app. Deirdre, ugh, okay, I'm not yelling. But what is the end game here? What are you trying to prove? Stacey thought about it carefully. I want him to say it, out loud, to my face. I don't want him to be able to spin this into something small when I confront him. I want him to have already confessed everything to me. He just won't know it was me he confessed to. Deirdre exhaled slowly. So what's the plan? I'm going to tell him Martha wants to video call. And then it's going to be my face on that screen. Another long silence. Lord, Deirdre, I need you to be here when I do it, in case things go bad. When? Friday night. Kids are at Mom's. The week leading up to Friday was the strangest of Stacey's life. She and Wesley existed in the same house like two planets in separate orbits. She cooked dinner. He complimented the food. He asked about her day. She gave short, polite answers. He kissed her forehead at night. She let him, and every night she picked up the Martha phone and kept the conversation going. Tell me something you've never told anyone, she wrote one night. And Wesley wrote back, sometimes I think I married the right woman at the wrong time, like we were both becoming people the other one didn't sign up for, and neither of us noticed until it was too late. Stacey stared at that message for a long time. The wrong time. She thought about who she used to be, the girl who made him laugh until he cried, the woman who drove 4 hours on a random Tuesday just to surprise him at a work conference. When had she stopped doing things like that? When had he stopped seeing her? When had they both just stopped? She didn't sleep much that week. Friday came. Deirdre arrived at 6. She hugged Stacey at the door, looked her in the eyes, and said, You sure? I'm sure, Stacey said. They set up in the living room. Stacey had her laptop open. She'd already messaged Wesley on the Martha phone. I'm ready to video call tonight. 9 o'clock. Just you and me. Wesley had replied immediately. I'll be there. I've been waiting for this. He didn't know that his wife was the one who'd be waiting on the other side of that call. At 8:45, Wesley told Stacey he had a work call to take in his office. He seemed nervous. He'd changed his shirt. He'd combed his hair differently. Little things, things a wife notices. Okay, Stacey said, from the kitchen, not looking up from her phone. Take your time. She waited until she had the office door click shut. Then she nodded at Deirdre. They moved quietly to the hallway. Stacey had her laptop. At exactly 9 o'clock, she opened the video chat request from the Martha profile. She pressed accept, and then she turned the camera on herself. For 2 seconds, neither of them said anything. Wesley's face on the screen went from relaxed to confused to something she had never seen on him before, something that looked like a man watching the floor open up underneath him. Stacey, hey Wesley, she said. Her voice was completely calm. It's Martha. He opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes were moving fast, like he was looking for a way out of the screen itself. How long have you, he started. 3 weeks, she said. Since the night I found your iPad in the bathroom. Since I read that your profile said you were married but unfulfilled. Since I read the message where you told Dreamgirl 22 that talking to her felt like breathing. Wesley put his hand over his face. I have every message, Wesley, she continued. Every voice note, every confession you made to Martha Price about your marriage, about me, about feeling invisible. She paused. I just want you to know, I heard you, all of it. He dropped his hand. His eyes were wet. Stacey, I'm sorry. I don't want an apology right now, she said. I want you to come downstairs and I want us to talk like real people, like two people who are going to decide together what happens next. He nodded slowly. And Wesley? She said before she closed the laptop. Don't take too long. Deirdre's here. She shut the screen. Deirdre, who had been standing in the hallway the whole time, let out a breath like she'd been holding it for an hour. Stacey, she whispered. I know, Stacey said quietly. They walked back to the living room and sat down. The house was very still. Outside, a car passed on the street. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. Somewhere upstairs, behind the office door, her husband of 11 years was sitting with the weight of everything he had said, knowing that the woman he had said it to and the woman he had said it about were the exact same person. Stacey folded her hands in her lap. She looked at the staircase. She waited. The office door opened after 4 minutes. She counted. Wesley came down the stairs slowly. He was still wearing the shirt he'd changed into. His eyes were red. He stopped at the bottom of the steps and looked at his wife sitting on the couch. He looked at Deirdre next to her. Then he walked over, pulled out the armchair across from them, and sat down. Nobody said anything for a moment. Then Wesley leaned forward and put his elbows on his knees. He looked at Stacey directly. I don't know how to start, he said. Start with the truth, Stacey said. You've been practicing all month. He nodded. He rubbed his face with both hands. I've been unhappy for a long time, and instead of telling you, I went somewhere else with it. I know how wrong that is. I know what I did. I'm not going to try to explain it away. Good, she said. I said things about you, about us, that were unfair. Some of it was true, and some of it was me just venting to someone who wasn't pushing back. And I know that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't, Stacey said. Are you done with me? He asked. She looked at him for a long time. The silence stretched out between them like something physical. Deirdre sat very still beside her. I don't know yet, Stacey said honestly. I'm angry. I'm hurt in a way I don't have words for. But I also listened to everything you said to Martha, and some of it landed. Some of it made me think about who I've been to. Not as an excuse for you, but because I'm not going to pretend this marriage has been perfect on my end either. Wesley blinked. He hadn't expected that. I want us to go to therapy, she said. Real therapy. Not the kind where we sit in a room and perform being fine. The kind where we actually tear this thing apart and see what's worth saving. Okay, he said. And then, is anything worth saving in your mind? Stacey looked at the man she had married at 26. The man who used to make her laugh harder than anyone. The man who had just spent 3 weeks falling for a woman who was, the whole time, his own wife. I don't know, she said again, but I think the fact that you fell for me twice might mean something. Wesley looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like he actually saw her. Yeah, he said, maybe it does. Deirdre exhaled and looked up at the ceiling. The three of them sat together in that big, quiet house in Buckhead, Atlanta, while the night pressed in around the windows. Nobody moved to get up. Nobody pretended everything was fine. They just sat there in the hard, uncomfortable truth of it, and for the first time in a long time, that felt more real than anything the Reed family had managed to build in 11 years of trying to look like they had it all together. So that's the end of the story. Stacey got what she came for. Out in the open finally, with nowhere left to hide. But what happened after that conversation? What Stacey and Wesley decided? What was said? What was lost? It's just another story. Now, before you go, I want to hear from you. Was Stacey right to do what she did? Or did she go too far? Drop it in the comment section. I read every single one of them. If this story hits you, share it with someone. You already know who came to mind
while you were watching. And if you're new here, this is what we do. Real stories, real people, no filters. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you soon.